evening and welcome to Middlesex Update. I'm Melissa Hurley, and tonight we have with us the Middlesex County Sheriff, James DiPaola. And Sheriff DiPaola, thank you for joining us on the program tonight.
My pleasure. It's great to see you again, Melissa.
Great. Nice to see you as well.
Yeah.
And tonight our show is going to focus a little bit more on the energizing and the technology and the modernization of the Sheriff's Department. As the folks at home, you probably can see me behind me, we have a photo that you'll be seeing that talks about the upcoming plans for the Bill Ricca House of Correction. But before we start talking about that and all the other great programs that you do, let's just talk a little bit about the sheriff's roles and duties. I think the old-fashioned notion would be that if you didn't see the sheriff and you never had to deal with the sheriff, well, that was good, because it was always associated with bad things. But I mean, you're really taking it to the 21st century, doing a lot of proactive programs with the communities that you serve. So tell me just a little bit about your roles.
Oh, absolutely, Melissa, and that's what I've been trying to do for the last 7 years as the elected sheriff, is to bring the sheriff's office more in touch with the community. Certainly representing and being elected by 1.5 million people in Middlesex County with 54 cities and towns is a very special privilege to me. And I think that, for what the taxpayers pay to operate the sheriff's office, it should be, in fact, providing more services. Really reaching out and being aggressive to try to arrest crime. Not only that, but also to be able to rehabilitate inmates and to be able to really be part of the community and part of the solution that communities, to some of the problems that the communities in Middlesex County are facing.
And I think it's important, too, as well, just for citizens of the county to be, Middlesex County is the largest in Massachusetts, fourth largest in the United States population-wise, and it's very important as a citizen of Middlesex County to be comfortable with your sheriff. This is the person who is handling all of the inmates and people who have been problems to society at one point or another and releasing them back into the society. So there should be some type of comfort level that you have with that person.
Absolutely, and that's the unique role of the sheriff, and the fact that, out of all law enforcement in the Commonwealth, the office of sheriff is the only one that is elected, where you actually have an input as a citizen on the direction of the sheriff's office and where we're going. And we think that the extra services that we've been providing, both on the corrections and rehabilitation side and the incarceration of criminals, has been very, very progressive, and we've expanded all of those things. But at the same time, we've expanded the role of the sheriff to be a little bit more on the law enforcement support side, to be able to get involved and make available to cities and towns special resources that aren't necessarily needed every single day to a city and town, but certainly available in some kind of a crisis and in preparation of any kind of large public gathering.
Right. You spent some time in the law enforcement field. You were on the Malden Police Department? That's
correct, Melissa. I have a long career in public safety. I know you probably think, this young kid, how's he do as the sheriff? But seriously, I was 18 years as a Malden police officer, and spent most of that time as a patrolman. I rode a motorcycle for the Malden Police Department. I worked a one-man car, a two-man car. I actually started out, Melissa, on the midnight shift when policemen used to walk around all night long and check doorknobs, jiggle doorknobs on businesses throughout the night, and that that was part of your responsibility, to be the real eyes and ears of the community out on a vigilant walk in the darkness of the night. But I progressed from that up to finally finishing up with a 3-year stint as an undercover narcotics as a sergeant and a supervisor. And at the same time, I was raising my family, going to school, and opportunity arose at some point, back about 12 years ago, to run for state representative. And I ran for state representative, was elected in Malden. After 4 years of being the state representative, the office of sheriff was available for a potential career goal, and we ran for sheriff and have won 2 elections countywide, and looking forward to serving a lot more years in the future with the sheriff's office.
Great. And your main headquarters is in Cambridge?
Well, there is an office. I maintain an office in Cambridge, and just because of the old form of county government, that was the seat of county government, which does not exist anymore. But because of that, though, the jail and the office, the budget office, and the legal office, more or less the business office of the sheriff, is located there. So majority of the time, that is where I spend my time and my work. But there's also a jail located there that I work out of that jail. And then I also spend a great deal of time at the Bill Ricca House of Correction, which is our largest facility out of 7 locations in the county.
That's the, oh, so you have 7 locations within the county?
There are actually 7 locations for the sheriff's office.
Okay.
We have the office and the jail in Cambridge. We have a community counseling center in Cambridge. We have the Billerica House of Correction. We have a community counseling center in Lowell, and we also have 3 civil process offices in Cambridge, Lowell, and Framingham.
Okay. But let's talk about this wonderful abstract photo behind us, and this is the Billerica House of Correction. Tell me a little bit about the Billerica House of Correction. It was built in 1929, so it's been deteriorating throughout the years. Tell me a little bit about how you got the funds, how you were able to convince people this needed to be modernized.
It's really kind of an interesting story, Melissa. The history is, as you're right, 1929. The main portion, as you look at this artist rendition of the new renovation project, the front part there where you see to the left, where the truck is backing into, that was the original portion of the house correction.
Okay.
That was built to house 300 men in 1929. Our count, since I've been the sheriff, has been well over 1,200. And we've really run out of every available space for potential housing of inmates. One of the solutions was a number of years ago to build some temporary housing pods on the grounds of the Billerica. So basically, they rented some wooden structures, put a fence around it, and said, that's the House of Correction.
Now, were these attached to this building?
No, they actually were sitting freestanding in the back of the current jail. So they basically just put a big fence around an area and put some wooden buildings in there. Well, those buildings had a life expectancy of about 5 years. Once I became the sheriff, they were well into almost 15 years. Literally, inmates were falling through the floor. Security was a real question. So we were able to finally get those buildings taken off the ground, get out of the unfair lease that the taxpayers were paying, and to lobby the legislature and the governor's office to be able to free up some money for a real dire need. So my campaign actually was to take the assistance of the local cable access in Malden, MATV, and they came up with me and they helped me put together a videotape. And I think you're going to be showing some of that as part of the show.
Exactly, and you know, I mean, they're just incredible incredible video of just an antiquated system, and you know, it's not just where the inmates were either. It seems that it was all the administrative offices. And how did that affect morale? Well,
it affected morale. It affected also productivity, and really was very, very difficult working conditions. Interesting part, when we talk about the inmate population at Billerica, no matter how many beds I say here today, we say what the capacity of that jail is. It's the capacity really of whatever the judges say, because when they send the inmates to us, we're going to house them. Unless some other court says that we cannot. So basically, the housing that we have lost, some other temporary housing which is on the grounds, which is again becoming in this deteriorated mode, will be replaced by this new permanent construction finally.
And when's the anticipated date of final completion?
We hope in the fall of 2004. Project will be completed. We broke ground a couple of months ago.
Great.
There's an awful lot of site preparation with drainage and moving of dirt around to prepare the site for the construction. But once that begins, hopefully in July, the actual building of the foundation in the building, it should move along rather quickly. We are one of the oldest facilities, certainly one of the most overcrowded for permanent construction. And again, Melissa, this doesn't solve our problem. We still need more infrastructure money to be able to go in now as we replace the current food services, such as in the old building, with the new food services. We're going to have to go back in to recapture that area, and there's no money in the pipeline for that. The interesting part was that I actually had the opportunity as a state representative to load the money in to a bond authorization for bonds for prison construction when I was a state rep, and then lobby to get those money back out and get it in the cap for the construction for the this year and next year. So it's been a long road to be able to get to this, but this is an accomplishment that I'm very grateful for, very happy about, and there's still a long road to finish the project, obviously on time and on budget and in a proper manner.
Well, sometimes it seems like you end one construction project and it's taken so long that it's time to just start something new to modernize it.
Well, Melissa, before we started taping the show, you had mentioned yourself, what about Cambridge? And the Cambridge jail was built in some 35 years ago, and that is overcrowded. We have about 300 inmates in there. It was built for 160, and we have anywhere about 250 to 275 inmates that we ship out to other jails around the county because there's no room here, and those jails are overcrowded. So there actually is a need for us to continue advocating for safer jails, and that's another aspect of this, is the real public safety. You know, for these old buildings and for the public to feel safe that when somebody goes to jail and somebody goes to a house of correction, that they're not going to be just walking out the front door because of a deteriorated building, is a real public safety issue. We're actually have installed and using high-tech biometric technology to be able to identify our inmates and visitors and employees. So we have some really high-tech security devices. And the new institution, there'll be increased security for the officers, the employees that work there. Devices that, when they're in the workplace and in the area interacting with the inmates, if they were to hit an emergency button, there's cameras that can automatically find the officer in the room. There's an increased security panel inside the institution and security room where every aspect and every door is monitored with cameras and encoded systems. So there's really a lot more high-tech equipment going into the new renovation project, and will be incorporated in the old project also to have the whole security together.
And is your plan to then incorporate it into Cambridge?
Yes, you know, we're constantly looking more ways to try to make sure that the Cambridge jail is a safe and secure environment.
Because the Cambridge jail is really just an interesting structure when you think about it. I mean, you have the court there, you have just people coming in and out to do their daily business. You have your administrative offices, and then you have the jail on top of there.
It really is. There's only there's only 5 courthouses that have jails inside the courthouses, and high rises especially. There's only 5 high rises, and we're one of the 5, and we're certainly the highest. It creates a whole number of issues for us, for security, fire safety. You know, all of our corrections officers are trained not only as corrections officers, deputy sheriffs, and law enforcement, but also limited firefighting experience. So we spend a week with our recruits in the academy at the Mass Fire Academy.
Oh, interesting.
Because they need a rudimentary
So this is something that you do at your sheriff's office above and beyond the correction officers training?
That's correct. They never received that training before until I became the sheriff. So there's this rudimentary level of firefighting knowledge to be able to combat and to be able to try to rescue, possibly employees and inmates until the fire department can't arrive. But obviously in a high-rise, really some unique and a lot of planning for our evacuation plan. Work very closely with the Cambridge Fire Department, Cambridge Police Department, to make sure that that building is in fact safe and secure at all times.
I think that kind of goes back to your goal that we spoke about earlier, just being a member of the community and being on the same page as the firefighters, the police officers, the other local law enforcement.
Absolutely, Melissa.
As well as the citizens. Let's talk about the Community Command Center. Tell me about this vehicle. It's huge. Tell me.
Yes, it is very large, and I think we actually
makes
have
a presence. It shows
we have a photograph here, and I think again we're going to the viewers are going to be able to see some video of the interior of the vehicle without revealing too many trade secrets.
Okay.
But I saw, Melissa, as the sheriff, after 9/11, a real need, unfortunately, for this kind of a piece of equipment.
Right.
And I also saw that in a community like mine, where I've lived my whole life and was a policeman for 18 years, that it's far out of the reach of a local community to be able to purchase something like this.
Right.
The total cost of this piece of equipment is in the $850,000 to $900,000 range. We've spent an awful lot of time, about almost close to a year, planning, building this vehicle, and basically what we did was we talked to other people around the country that had command centers.
Okay.
And we also asked them one question. And the big question was, what would you do differently?
Right.
What do you think you missed? Where would you go back if you could? And with that, along with reviewing the McKinsey report out of the World Trade Center disaster, found out that there was a lot of technology that was lacking in command centers. And the biggest one is the thing that's a problem that's called interoperability of radio systems, meaning that VH radios and UH radios that police and fire are in different bands are not able to talk to each other.
Okay.
Well, we have computers and we have devices inside this vehicle that does in fact allow us to link up into talk groups,
Okay.
radios from a wide variety of bands, telephones, Nextels, two-way radios, aviation radios, so that we can put the people that need to talk to each other in a crisis situation, and in just a regular general large populated public event.
Right.
That they're prepared and they're planning their strategy and are ready and able to talk to each other in case there is an emergency.
So basically within this command center, if a crisis were to arise or a large-scale event, you could, in a matter of seconds or moments, you could put together kind of like a virtual conference call with all the stakeholders?
Absolutely, and the technology is highly sophisticated, but the user operator is as simple as a touch screen, 1, 2, and the talk groups are set up. It's really extremely simple to operate, and we purposely design it that way so that we can train the local police officers, local firefighters to be able to use
And
this
there's always different people working on different shifts as well.
And there's something that really needs to be mentioned, Melissa, about this vehicle is, again, myself as the sheriff of Middlesex County, I do not see myself as coming into a community and taking over what's known as command and control.
Right.
What I see ourselves doing is providing highly sophisticated technology, highly trained individuals to be able to enhance and be able to help out the local police department do their job, the chief, the fire chief, the police chief, to be able to have all of these tools for him to be able to be at his maximum and be able to protect his own personnel and also be able to protect firefighters and the public in general. And the second big thing about this piece of equipment is every bit of telecommunications in this vehicle is all satellite redundant, meaning that everything can go through a satellite transmission.
Okay.
We're able to uplink and downlink television signals. We're able to do teleconferencing via satellite. We have internet accessibility and capabilities via the satellite. We have satellite telephones, both mobile and portable, out of the vehicle.
Okay.
So there is this huge amount of communications backup, and that was the problem in New York City. Radios couldn't talk to each other. Telephone lines went down. Cell phones went down. And the law enforcement and public safety was that they stand still with communications in a lot of cases. So this equipment is really very unique. And when we talk about the public event, non-emergency, but yet a large-scale populated area, these are now targets for terrorists, unfortunately, and we must be prepared at those. So this vehicle is able and equipped with cameras to be able to do surveillance of the general area, parking lots, vehicles that were in the area, individuals that are in the area, and be able to be recording and paying attention what's going on in the area. So that even if there was something to happen, say a kidnapping of a child, well, we'd simply go back to the films of viewing the activities of the day, and maybe something's on the film that we can be able to see and use to help the investigation.
So is it always videoing, like when it's on duty, say?
The vehicle has the capabilities of recording at any time it wants to, and that's something that we would do at a public event and make it available for the local police.
So this command center it's available, I guess you would say, for cities and towns if they're having a large-scale event, or if there is some type of crisis communications, they would have a way to get in touch with your office or with whoever's manning the command center, and then they'd work from there.
We started, Melissa, we actually received the vehicle in June of last year. And in September, we actually started going out, and we're still doing it as we speak, individual town-by-town meetings with the police, the fire, the city manager, the mayor, the selectmen, the emergency personnel, to be able to brief all of them how to get a hold of the vehicle, how to use the vehicle, and to establish the emergency contact numbers. But certainly at our office, 617-494-4400, anybody can reach out to make contact and see about having the vehicle available for their community at any kind of an event. We would coordinate that with the local police and the local fire department. It really is a tremendous resource. And
well, it sends a message as well. I mean, especially for a community event, I think it sends a message that if someone were to be there and to be planning some type of attack or something, that this vehicle sends a message that there already is law enforcement on the scene. So aside from the police officer they may be seeing, there's something else as well, just to kind of reinforce that message.
Absolutely.
This is the area
and,
to try that.
And Melissa, one of the interesting things too is if you look at the side of that bus, the largest word there is the word community. You know, we didn't put the Middlesex Command Center.
Right.
We put the Community Command Center. So it's designed for the community. We also designed it not just for, you know, in thinking inside the blocks of just police and law enforcement, but all of public safety.
Right.
It's equipped with an onboard computerized weather station that can be very helpful for fire services at the scene of a fire, or chemical or biohazardous material spill. It's equipped with the cameras. But it's also fully equipped with the 6 telephone lines. We can redirect telephone lines from City Hall into the vehicle.
Okay.
It could be a portable City Hall if there was a town hall or a city office that had to close down. If there was a particular neighborhood that was having a problem and they needed to have city services there, we designed it to be basically a portable City Hall with fax machines,
Right.
You know, with the communications, with the internet capabilities, with all the
Yeah,
communications.
it's definitely one-stop shopping.
It can serve a multitude of services and provide services in after action, in anticipation of an action, and obviously during an emergency.
Tell me a little bit about this alert transmission system.
Well, Melissa, when I was a police officer, I found it very frustrating at times to think that I sent somebody to jail and never really realized when or where they were going to be getting out. That's been a problem for a long time.
Right.
There was, for a little while, maybe some notification on special ones where you'd pick up the phone and let somebody know, but it really was such a large undertaking. Well, at the sheriff's office, I saw that as a problem for us to try to tackle. I sat down with a group of my employees, Mike Cagno, our information technology, Paul Spencer, our records and receiving director, and said, listen, this is the problem. Let's identify it. Local police and communities demand, and I say they should be, given information on individuals being released from jail and from the house correction. So we were able to work within our own computer system to be able to come up with this alert program.
Okay.
And basically what it is, Melissa, is every single day now there will be a daily email sent out to local police departments, and inside that email will have packets of information on every inmate that's being released that day, with detailed information and photographs of what they most recently look like, what the tattoo, if they have any identifying marks on them, such as tattoos, such as scars. It also has a little information packet about gang affiliations, known types of crimes, you know, known criminal associates. So it's a huge amount of information for local police to be able to receive on a daily basis. And then it's free, doesn't cost the communities anything. It increases the communication between police and the sheriff's office, local police and the sheriff's office and the state police. But it also allows the local police to now keep saving all of these emails and to create their own database, a searchable database that they can help do investigations and identify criminals in the future.
A little bit about the inmates who we also see in the communities. I mean, oftentimes we see inmates in the communities, whether it's helping to pick up trash or just being transported, actually even on 93, and you often take them to the different courts. You have the responsibility as a sheriff.
Yes, and Melissa, those are 2 other very large obligations of the sheriff's office, and you're absolutely correct that there are so many different responsibilities in the statutes for the sheriff's office to take care of. But first of all, on the transportation of inmates, you know, when somebody's arrested and they're being held without bail, and or if someone's arrested on a warrant and they need to be transported from one court to another, that in fact falls to the responsibility of the sheriffs. There was a law passed a number of years ago known as the Warrant Management Act, and that warrant management system requires the sheriffs to do all of the warrant management, moving of inmates around the Commonwealth. At any one day, we move probably 150 inmates from different parts of the state for court appearances, and then make sure they all get back to the jail without escaping and causing fear in the community. The second thing that you see in the community, maybe driving around the street or going by a park or a school or a fire station, are inmates that are clearly marked with a corrections officer with them. That's our community work program. That's where we're able to go into a community and be able to reduce some of the cost burdens that cities and towns must carry to be able to maintain parks, schools, painting. We don't do anything in that area, though, that would displace a worker. If it's something in the project that definitely would not get done because of lack of revenue, that's where the sheriff's office, with a very strict program of supervision and how an inmate works their way into the program, will go out to a community and be able to provide these services at senior citizen complexes, parks, playgrounds, anti-graffiti. We have a very active anti-graffiti unit that goes out and removes graffiti from public and nonprofit organizations, cemeteries, churches, synagogues. So we're there and available to be able to service the community in that way also.
And we also probably should note that the inmates that you see out on the work release programs usually have very little time left, correct?
Yes.
Before they're integrated into society.
First of all, the inmates that would be involved in the community work program would not be violent offenders, and they also would not be sexual offenders. And they are in the constant supervision of a corrections officer, where actually this is really probably the most amount of counseling and rehabilitation work is done with them, because the correction officer is with them day to day, every single day, and talking about their problems and trying to instill in them a work ethic and a routine of getting up in the morning, being responsible, and also being able to show them what their efforts are going to and how it improves the community. And a lot of inmates don't have that value system, and this really helps instill a value system in them. And also, I think the community should be understanding that the state representatives and the senators in Middlesex County have really been very, very supportive of the mission of the Sheriff's Office, of being able to provide some of these new services they never provided before, having offices to help work hand-in-hand with local police departments on drug task force and things of those nature that really is making our community safer. But especially in the area of this post 9/11 with Homeland Security. So I work very closely with the congressional delegation, the United States Senators, to try to find any resources that we can. Because otherwise, Melissa, if I don't go out there and find those resources and bring them back to Middlesex County, bring them back to Massachusetts, well,
someone else will.
If we have cousins in Utah,
someone else,
they're going to get that resource. So I see that as a very parochial aspect of my job, and I work very diligently trying to find new resources and infrastructure equipment, both for the facilities and for external use with our public safety and law enforcement wing.
Well, this has been very interesting. Sheriff DiPaola, I want to thank you for being on the program. It's been very interesting to show, the citizens just what you do on a day-to-day basis and your long-term goals. I want to thank you for being here, and we'll have to have you come back on sometime, hopefully before the opening of the new House of Corrections.
Well, Melissa, thank you very much for having me tonight. And you actually, along with Joe Fortunato, provide a tremendous volunteer service here to be able to inform people of what's happening out in the community and across Middlesex County. And I'm grateful for the opportunity tonight, but very appreciative.
Oh, well, thank you. I had to throw it all back on Joe, because Joe does all the hard work.
I know, but
I just get to meet nice people.
But the two of you work very diligently and do a great job here. And please keep up the good work.
Great, thank you.
We look forward to seeing you in the future.
Good luck with everything.
Thank you.